Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. My name is Dr. Denise, but you may get to know me as Dr. Denise Thinks. This is because I help people like you think about your health by shifting your mindset and rewiring generational habits around food. So today, I want to chat with you about something that goes deeper than just dumping dairy because for most people, that's easier said than done. So the first thing I want to let you know is that dairy, it ain't in your DNA, okay? Sorry to alarm you, but it's the truth. And I'll prove that to you by peeling back the layers and digging in just a little bit into the psychology of eating and chatting with you about how we got here. But more importantly, how in the heck do we break free? Okay? Are you ready? I do this by helping you what I call rebooting your roots of not so great food habits. Okay? All right, let's get into it. So, first thing, milk, memory, marketing. Let's start there, okay? Did you know that we were historically plant-based? I'm sorry, what did you say? All right. If you chose not to answer, I'm just letting you know you are choosing to keep yourself mentally in the same place that you've always been before, okay? And if you're mentally there, of course you're going to be there physically. So if you want long-lasting, healthier physical change, talk back to me, okay? So let me ask you this again. Did you know that we were historically plant-based? All right, good. So those that want physical and mental change, you've answered back. Great. All right. So yes, we were historically plant-based people. And when we coined the term soul food, we were actually talking about real whole foods. Okay? The whole apple, all the greens, the okra, the beans, the squash, the wild rice, not the processed patties or cheese stuffed anything that can be found in that grocery store. Okay? So, what do you do when you want a group of people to change and forget who they are? You rebrand what they eat. You remix their memories. You flood their minds. And how do you flood their minds? Did you know that we're advertised to 60,000 to 80,000 times per day? That's a start, right? A huge chunk of that advertisement is around food. And of course, it's not the food that keeps you healthy, right? I mean, when is the last time you saw a commercial about grapes? Right? Exactly. So the foods that we constantly see on our screens are the ones that they want us to create impulse and addiction and conformity inside of us. And grapes, they're just a little bit too healthy, right? So, incoming milk. Okay. Milk became the face of childhood strength and trust, even though our bodies said, no, thank you. Okay. Yes. Do you remember the days of maybe you or your parents or grandparents were saying things like, yeah, when we went to school, we had to make sure we had our milk money, right? Little things like that starts to implant some ideas about what a particular food is. Have you ever been asked to, if you want to upgrade and add a slice of American cheese on your burger for just 10 cents, right? Yeah, little things like that just seems so innocent, but not so much, okay? So because of little strategic things like that, it's my job to help you look at dairy differently. But of course, Dr. Denise thinks style. So let me ask you this. Have you ever seen or even said the words coconut milk? What about Brazil nut milk or milky tea or even milky skies? Anything like that? Well, guess what? None of that comes from a cow. Okay? For some reason, we associate milk with a cow. Not for some reason, it's advertisement reasons. Yes, I get it. Okay? But let's strip it back a little bit. Okay? Milk is simply a cloudy, nourishing liquid. Okay? But that word nourishing, if it comes from a cow, think about who it's nourishing for, not you. Okay? The nourishment when you're talking about coconut milk or Brazil nut milk, okay, it can come from plants. It can come from seeds. It can come from the earth. So when you think about milk, I want to make sure you're talking about the right kind, okay? Because what milk doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be a lie. We've been taught to see that cow's milk as natural and necessary, but I want you to now see it as a contract with the dairy industry. Here's a not so fun fact. From the surplus of milk, which we know is just extra milk sitting around and getting spoiled, did you know that cheese and butter was created just to avoid waste? Yeah. So the next time that you look at that cute little charcuterie board that's dressed with nuts and seeds and healthy dark chocolate, I want you to think about who taught you that. Okay? Go back and do your own research if you want to. But I'm here to help you make it easier for you and reboot your own roots. Okay? Speaking of cheese, why do we crave it so much? Let's get into the brain science just a little bit, just a tinge, okay? I want you to know that cheese is chemically addictive. Yes, it is not just a craving, it is chemically addictive. I mean, like literally containing morphine-like compounds addictive. Those compounds trigger the same pleasure centers in your brain as opioids. Okay? But of course, it doesn't just stop there. It definitely gets deeper. Cheese is comfort, right? It can be a ritual. It's what you ate for a quick little snack when you got home from school. Today, it could be that late night slice after a long day because you deserve it, right? It's your famous mac and cheese dish that you brought to the cookout because you want to make sure everybody has some food and gets what you brought, right? So cheese has now become a craving. It's tied to stress and comfort and connection. Yes or no? Yes, absolutely. So it's more than just a product itself, okay? It's a memory, it's belonging. It's all of those things, okay? But here's the real talk. When comfort becomes a chemical coping mechanism, that's when it stops serving you, okay? This is what we call emotional eating. And emotional eating hides a deeper need. So you're not broken, you're just wired by design and programmed by repetition. But here's the beautiful thing about wiring. It can be rewired, all right? So, how do we resist what is bound to happen? Because stress, it comes packaged in this thing that we call life, right? I'm glad you asked, all right? So now we can get to the roots of resistance, okay? Have you ever tried to change what's on your plate and you suddenly felt guilty? Has that ever happened? What about hearing something like, oh, so you don't eat real food no more, or you too good to eat what you were raised on, or anything like that at all? Have you ever heard any of that kind of stuff? Right. Saying no to dairy can often feel like betrayal because it's not just a change in your diet, it's a disruption in your identity, in your family traditions, and how people relate to you. So food is just one of those places that we cling to and identity, especially in our culture. It's how we show love, it's how we celebrate. So when you say no to dairy, you're not just skipping the cheese. You're confronting inherited expectations. So that social pressure plus family resistance is definitely so real. I've experienced it, okay? And it's hard. I'll just be honest with you, it's hard, okay? But that's why retraining your brain, or what I like to call rebooting your roots, is definitely essential. Because guess what? Motivation alone is temporary. Willpower is not going to do it. How many times have you been there, right? Those things are temporary. You literally need to rewire some things, okay? So I teach you about emotional intelligence, your values, your beliefs, your desires. It's a whole entire system that becomes packaged, which is what I teach in my Reboot Your Roots program. But you don't have to wait till you get that. I'm going to start you out with a few little essentials, okay? So, when you start to reboot your narrative, the good news is, again, your brain can actually change. You can actually teach an old dog new tricks, if you will. Okay? It's called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the science of rewiring, which means your brain can be trained to crave new, healthy foods. Yes, I actually crave fruit. I crave fruits and vegetables all the time. So every time that you choose differently, whether it's hemp milk instead of the creamer, or you're honoring your body with fruit instead of cheese sticks, you're training new neural pathways. Okay? So you can reclaim your heritage without harming your health. Rebooting your roots means rethinking what love and tradition and health is and what it looks like on your plate. And it can be joyful and it can be full of flavor. But guess what? It's going to take intention. It's going to take intention. All right. So here's a few helpful tips to help you get started on rebooting your own roots without overwhelm, without shame, and without trying to flip your whole life overnight. All right. Because we know that doesn't work. Okay. So a few simple tips I want to leave you with. Tip number one, upgrade just one habit, not your whole kitchen. Okay. Start with something that you do every day. Something like drink coffee. Do you drink coffee every single day? Okay. If you do, and you use regular creamer, try hemp milk or Brazil nut milk or walnut milk instead of that cream. Okay. I made this switch for my 75-year-old client, and she didn't realize a difference as far as her taste buds. So she'd been doing that consistently for several months. Well, after she'd been doing that, she was out somewhere, had some coffee with some regular cream, and guess what happened? Her body rejected it. Yes, literally throwing up. Has that ever happened to you where you were eating something and your body threw it up? Okay. If that hasn't happened, have you ever been gassy before, where your stomach was bloating and bubbling and all these other kind of things? That is actual rejection from something that you put into your body. So we have to stop thinking it's like, oh, that's just what it does to me. No, that's not normal. That's not natural. Okay. So if it's not coffee for you, what small substitutes can you make in your kitchen that you have every single day or every week or something to that nature? Okay. Think about it. Tip number two, speak to your subconscious. Okay, the subconscious is so overlooked, but it's so important because this is how we start to live on autopilot. All right, something as simple as saying, I need to stop eating cheese, right? Whenever you begin a sentence with I need to, or I ought to, or I should, and all these kind of things, you're actually internally stressing your body even more because you're really saying, I don't want to, but I should, just because I heard it from these people with the Afro Vegan Society, right? but you actually need to shift a few things. So instead of saying, I need to, say, I'm learning to love foods that love me back, right? That simple language switch rewires your identity, and identity fuels your habits. Okay. Tip number 3, anchor the change to a routine. Okay. So, what that means is you want to add some structure to your shift. So, just like your daily coffee habits, where you're going to now use a plant-based milk instead of the regular cream from a cow, that is how you start to anchor those changes. But if, doing something once a week or once a day, every single day is too much, then think about replacing cheese heavy meals that is on a consistent day of the week, like meatless Mondays or soul food Sundays, but of course, rebooted style. We have to start looking at these things a little bit differently than the way that we were taught and grew up on, because you're here and that means it does not serve you. Okay. Tip number 4, learn one new recipe, but with purpose. Okay. One recipe with purpose. This means choosing a recipe that feels still comforting and feels like home, but then recreate it without dairy completely, or at least like a true plant-based free option. Okay. Uh, sorry, a plant-based dairy-free option. Okay. So the goal here is not about perfection. It's about a pattern interruption that gives you power. So whether it's once a day or once a week, that's how you start to rewire your brain. Okay? And my last tip for you, don't try this alone. All right? Change is a lot easier when it's supported. So even if you are single and live by yourself, you can phone a friend, and that friend can be on the phone with you and have purpose within that phone call. So the both of you guys are not just chatting about your day, that's fine. However, make it more purposeful where you guys are both prepping your veggies, cleaning them off, chopping them up, and putting them in a container to where the next time when you get ready to create that meal that you saw, it's just a lot easier to put it together. And it won't make it so easy to grab for those chips. Okay? If you live in a large family, get everybody involved, even if it's the little kids. Okay. Everybody can play a role into the food. Research shows that when you get little kids involved in their food, they actually start to appreciate it more, instead of just, this quick eating and all this kind of stuff. They actually just appreciate it because they played a part into creating this meal, right? Ladies, to the ladies that are listening, I want us to think about reclaiming our household to by the way of food again. And this is not about some 1950s gender roles idea, but as the natural nurturers that we are, we have to take charge and give real love to our families. Okay? Real love to our families. All right? So I want you to know that this journey is not about perfection. It's about progress. And as you probably have already been told, you can still have those creamy, rich, satisfying meals, but just with a plant-based swap. Because this is what legacy can look like. All right. Teach the young ones from the beginning. All right. You can still make Big Mama proud, just with some dishes that actually fuel your future. Okay. Make this a normality for the young ones. Okay. And again, you don't have to do it alone. Don't do it alone. If you don't have any friends or anything of that nature, feel free to join my community. Okay. I've guided numerous women and men through this shift using a framework that I built from my book called Fed Up, and it's basically a 12-week breakup plan with your bad food habits. Okay? So, here's what I want to leave you with. You're not broken. You've just been programmed. But the beautiful thing is you can be reprogrammed, okay? This isn't about shame. This is about liberation. You can reboot your roots. But I just want to know if you are ready, ready. Not just ready, but ready, ready. Okay? When you are ready, ready, we can keep walking this thing together. You can go to my website, allthingsalkaline.org, and get on the waiting list for my book, and I'll send you a discount code. Or you can follow me on all the social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I'll give you some daily tips on how you can begin to reprogram yourself. Okay? We've got to do this together. How successful have you been able to do this on your own, right? This isn't just about food. It's about freedom. And speaking of freedom, let me leave you with this. Something that I got from a colleague. Whenever a person begins on that journey of going on a diet or, just doing better for themselves health-wise, they feel like their freedom is going to be taken away. They say things like, oh, I just want to be free to eat that pizza or that chocolate cake and things of that nature. Well, here's the test. Have you ever eaten a full meal and actually got full, but then some dessert was placed in front of you? Think about your favorite dessert. Have you ever been able to turn it down? If the answer is no, that is not freedom. Okay? If you were full from what you just ate, but you made room for dessert, that is not freedom. What's free? Free is when you are in control of what you think. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time. Hope to see you again soon. Peace.